Right folks, I've just been sent an email. I'm always filming like this, aren't I, going in here? I've just been sent an email on YouTube, or a message on YouTube from someone who's trying to get started doing this, and he's had all the carburetor off a Briggs mower by the sounds of it. Excuse me, by the way, I've got a bit of a cold, believe it or not. And he's done everything he can, and it starts up alright, and then it just revs up and then dies again. So I'm going to just suggest a few things that it could be if that's happening. So I'm going to just drag this mower out and I'm just going to show him. So this is for you, Spud. I think you were called Spud anyway, apologies if not, but you're obviously having a go at doing this, which is great. So let me just take this off here. Just take this air filter box off. Just flip that up. It sounds to me, and I'm only guessing, this is one I've got in to repair. As you can see here, it's got, I've not even looked at this yet, I don't think. I might have done ages ago. You see these springs here, mate? You see this part? Like that sticks. It shouldn't be like that. That's unfortunate, because I've dragged a bad one out of the garage. But basically this is the this white thing under here. It's a governor flap and it should move backwards and forwards freely. I'm going to drag another one out because you can't see on that one. Quite annoying actually, because I need some springs now. Like I was saying on the last video about that one that was like a £5 for spares or repair. What's it worth? Well, I wish I had it for a £5. I might go back on and just go and get that, and just for them springs. So let me just drag this out of here. I always start like this. I end up just thinking I'll just film a quick video, and then I end up like rearranging half my garage. So let's pull this one out. So this is a different one. I'm actually going to take this cover off in a minute. This is kind of the worst one I could do. You can see here how this springs about. Now what can happen if the revving up and down is, you can prime it and you can see the fuel going through. Sometimes if the primer is split, it'll stop delivering fuel. You could always try another carb and another tank, but before you do that, make sure this is all down. You see how this little hook, I don't know if you bought a DVD or not, and I'm just mentioning it because when I do these carbs on the DVD, it shows it absolutely must go through here, this hook. Otherwise this spring doesn't work. It's not designed to stay in one place, it's designed to move about and find a balance. If it revs up and down, it's because the diaphragm and gasket needs doing. And also on the back here of the carb, where it goes back onto the engine here, there's actually two rubber washers which need to be seated correctly as well. I've filmed this in some videos, but it is on the Repairing Lawnmowers for Profit DVD, so that's there. So some reason it could do that. The primer bowl could be split. More than likely this little spring here connects to the governor flap, and it opens and closes in here, and if it's stuck open it'll just run flat out, and of course it'll eventually it'll stall. If I have a look in my little toolkit, I want one of these. I think it's a T20 head on these. I've done these quite a lot. I think that fits. I'm going to put that in there. We'll just try and take this cover off just so I can show you a little bit better what I'm talking about. Yeah, that tool I was showing you, just to get these covers off in here, it's basically just two screws to take out. There's one there and one there. You can see there that the sticker's been split on this one, so someone's already been in. So the basic idea of me filming this video is just to come up with a few suggestions as to why your mower will start and run and then just run flat out and then not work. There's a few things it can be. We'll take that one out and we'll see if we can get down here with this this screwdriver. It might be a bit thick, I might have to get a different one. Yeah, choose a different one so I can get in there a bit better. So I'll get the right tool for the right job. This is just a screwdriver out of my Halford socket set. If anyone hasn't seen the videos, I've got a Halford's 150 piece socket set, and it was about £100. That's probably the most expensive thing I have for doing this. You don't even need one to get started, but it's got loads of little bits in. So I've got my holder. The kids, I've referred to it with them as noddy holder. Anyway, take that off, just lift it over this right here. And now we can see what I'm talking about. You see in here, this linkage here, Spud, this needs to look like this. Sometimes this little spring here doesn't drop back through right. It sort of looks like it has, but it hasn't. Make sure this part here, this is joined to the governor flap that goes across this way. Make sure this is moving freely. If it isn't, that could be that would be my likely guess of what your problem is. And also make sure that there's two rubber washers on this like pipe here. See where there's notches behind it, where it pushes back on. When you shove everything back on, make sure it goes back on really neatly. Let's just fire that up actually, see if there's anything in here. And I'll show you. I'll just remove this recoil here and I'll show you exactly what this governor flap assembly does. They're just great at these mowers. I mean, I can get to anything I want to get to in, like, you know, 2 minutes. Just take these 3 parts off here, one there, one at the other side. The whole recoil just lifts off and I can show you exactly what I mean. And as I've mentioned before on other videos, these Mountfield SP470s are my favourite mower. And I'm going to show you something here to do with this in a minute, which has well, it used to catch me out a few times, and I had exactly the same problems that you're experiencing when you're just getting started doing this. Little things that you just learn. You see this here, this is where I took this screw out from here. Now, what can happen when you pick these up is you'll often find someone's had a tinker and that's been on there, and it'll run flat out and they haven't actually used the correct screw. They've used a longer one and they've gone straight through the casing, and this actually is quite a bad design really, because it goes straight into the top of here, into this recoil cover, and if it's too long, I'll show you what the problem can be. If this screw goes too far through there, when you lift this off and out of the way like I want to, what happens is, this is a governor flap assembly here. See how this opens and closes? It's all linked to your springs. Well, what can happen sometimes is you can get this, it won't open and close properly, because where that drops on is right where the governor flap is. You can see there. And what happens when it's running, this actually finds a balance. This actually balances itself out and moves itself to a position where it actually sets itself, and these springs on these governor springs, these are governor springs by the way, these actually set the flow and how fast this mower is going to run. So everything here, right from this section here, needs to be free. So when you put this cover back on, when you put this recoil cover back on, make sure, even if you have to just put one screw in the back to test it, make sure this governor flap is definitely moving free. That's probably the main cause of having that problem. As I said, unless you get this through here. Just for anybody who's watching this video, if you've got a mower that just revs up and down, like I've just shown you on that one there, nothing will work if you're just trying to glue these together or get some wire and make it stay in the same position. It still won't run right. It's the delivery of fuel that causes your lawnmower to rev up and down and stall. And if it's doing that, it's nothing to do with these springs. I see this 9 times out of 10. It's to do with the gasket that sits in here, which is a diaphragm and gasket, and this is what delivers the fuel evenly to your machine. So if it's revving up and down, do yourself a big favour, don't mess with these governor springs. And I'll just film in here just so anybody who's taken them off and had a little tinker can see how they go, because it's awful when you take them off and you can't remember where they go. So that's exactly how they go. Everything loops around this here, and this little notch here must go straight down to the bottom first. To disconnect this, you can leave it all together and just push this little notch here back up through here. You don't have to take anything else apart. You can sort of take it off in one go. In fact, you can take it off in like 10 seconds. Undo that there and undo this one on the front, which is there. So let's do it. Go on, let's do it. You just take this off here like this. So simple. I mean, anybody, absolutely anybody could do this. Always disconnect your spark plug. I always do that, and especially I always do it when I'm filming a video. So whatever you're doing, just get into the habit of taking it off. I'll take that off there. I'll just go and get a bigger socket to take that one off. Just take this one out of here, look, and pull this out, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. And this has taken me no less than 10 minutes. If you can learn these few little skills, I promise you can make yourself an absolute killing come summertime when people are really cutting the grass. That's just a spacer. Take that back off, and this whole thing right from here, just wiggle it and it'll just come off like that. And you see the 2 washers that have sat on there, this is for you, Spud, particularly. Make sure that they go back on in that order. The black one goes in the back of the carburetor first, then the white one, and when you push this back on, make sure it all sits together nice. And what I'm trying to show here is how you can disconnect it in one go. You see this spring here, it's quite difficult to do because I've not got my tripod at the minute, but basically just push this back up through this hole here. And what I think might have happened with yours is you got it kind of like that. So let's see if I can do it. See, one little click like that and you can take the whole thing off, and this whole thing just comes away. You can remove it from all the springs, it just comes away from the machine. And what I tend to do is, now I've done it quite a lot, is I will hook that back in and I'll leave that one in. The top one you can leave in, and you can just unhook the bottom one. It's actually a lot easier to just unhook this bottom one. You see there, we just pull it round there, we just unhook it there. Alright, to put my camera down, I just couldn't do it with one hand. You see this little notch at the bottom there? Basically that slides in to the centre of this plastic triangle bit. I don't actually know what that's called, but if you unhook it from there, you can just lift the whole thing away. There's a really detailed description of this. I'm not sure, I think I've actually put the video on YouTube for changing the diaphragm and gasket that shows all this in a much a slower procedure. So basically you can keep all this connected up. That just wants to go back on there. Then you ain't got to touch these springs, and you've got your carburettor off and your tank off, and you can service this up by putting a diaphragm and gasket in that, and that is what will stop your lawnmower revving up and down, not the springs. You won't do it by just adjusting the springs. I can't emphasise that enough. You have to change the diaphragm and gasket in here if your lawnmower's revving up and down. So everything moves like that, Spud. If you wonder why I'm saying Spud and you've come into this video halfway early, I've just had a question about a lawnmower that's revving. It'll start out and fire up, it'll run flat out and stop, and I think it's because the governor flap isn't connected here correctly, or you've got something going down the top and stopping it. So what I tend to do to put it all back together is I slide these two off, these two washers here. So to get this back together, sorry, I've just disturbed there answering a question. To put this back together, you put the black one back in. I'm talking fast because I'm in a bit of a rush because I have to go out. My wife's waiting for me. She's, yeah, you're going to be long. Yeah, I'm telling Spud how to fix his lawnmower. You put the black one in, put the white one in. That clicks in like that, you see. And then when you push this back on here, what I normally do here, just clip this in first. Put this little notch back through here. See, like that. Yeah. And what you've probably done is caught this top one here, and it's not gone back in right. So you've got to make sure they're in exactly as they should be. Just put that top one in there, and you've just got to get this angle right of this bottom one here. Just get it all back together nice and neat. And then I'll just put these two bolts back through here and just start that one off there. It's as simple as this to do. Honestly, when you've done this like 3 or 4 times, it'll take you about an hour to learn it maximum. And you can just repair so many of these just by changing the diaphragm and gasket. You'll find dozens of these in your local area this summer, probably in about a week's time, or even today, because look, it's actually quite sunny today. And there'll be a lot of people gone out and bought a new one and thrown their other one, or put it on eBay or Facebook Marketplace. So I'll just connect this one back in here and get it started up. That's what I'm trying to show you. I've got that one just started in there, so everything's sort of loose. Make sure this is pushed on nice and tight on there. Make sure it goes on. And I'm just going to tighten that back up. We'll tighten this back up as well. And then we'll start this mower up just so you can see, after all this messing about, it'll start up and run fine. I'm sure this one works alright. Just a note as well while I'm thinking, when you tighten this one up as well with this spacer in, just make sure that lines up there, so when you put your recoil cover back on, you can actually get your parts through here as well. Otherwise it's down here and you find out you've missed it. You've got this cover back on, so just line it up before you actually nip it up tight. So I've got them two tightened up. This still moves about a little bit, just need to nip that up a bit more. What I want to show is just make sure, once again, make sure all this is moving about and everything's in the right place, because when you put this back on you can't get to this that easily. So I'm just going to put this back on and we'll just fire it up and make sure I've got it back together correctly. Take this oil dipstick off if you want. I normally just leave it on, then I just shove it back down this thing here. And get everything nice and lined up. What you'll find here is, you saw me struggling with that then, this recoil gets really tight. You can either unloop it from here or you can just pull on the handle and it'll let you pull the pull cord, because that releases this brake which is at the back here. So I've just unlooped it, takes all this pressure off this pull cord rope here. Put that back down. That wants to go under there, that goes underneath there. Line it back up. Make sure you don't trap your spark plug wire here. Make sure that there's actually a little notch on these where it should sit. If you get it in there and tighten it up, there's a good chance you could ruin it. And then we'll just put these 3 parts back on here. One there, and one at the other side. The easiest way to do this is just to start them all off and give them a couple of turns by hand, so you know that they're all in the right place. And then I just snip them up with a socket. If you just try and do one at a time and tighten it up, you find they don't line up really well. So just put them in and start them finger tight first, and then tighten these up. A couple of little things to mention here. Obviously, I'll bore you to death with it again. Make sure it's all moving freely. There's a little rubber, like a rubber bung I always think of it as. Make sure this goes over this air intake pipe here. Everything's connected up along here. It can be a little bit fiddly. Just push that back on and make sure it's on nice and tight. You can see how that fits on there, so it actually connects up properly like that. I've got everything back together. I might as well put the air filter box on. This is a little filter, a little gasket that sits on top of there. You want to make sure that's on as well, so you get a good seal around there. It's cleaning off really, but I'll just put it back on for now just to show you, see if this works. See, once you put that air filter box on, you think there's nothing you can do. By just taking that off, it gives you access to all these things. And that's as far as people get with these mowers when they've had them a few years. They'll take that screw out and they'll fiddle with these, and then if I'm lucky, I get to buy them off them and repair them by putting a gasket in them for like less than £1, or you know, about £1 each. And then it's great because then I would just resell them for profit and make myself a lot of extra income, which is just great for, like, you know, once you've learnt it, half an hour's work, maybe an hour if you want to fully service it, maybe an hour in the garden. I love it, me. It's great. Pocket money. So let's just put that in there. Tighten that up. Of course, you could try this without this this plastic cover on, but I'm just going to film it with it on because I like it on. It should be on. And just put this pull cord back through here. Here's a little note, just while I'm putting this back together. I wasn't actually filming this, but a lot of people put these in here, which, you know, just put it in and it goes like that. I see a lot of that. All you've got to do is put it in from underneath and then pull it round, and it's like that, look. Anyway, so I'm going to tighten these back up now, making sure, absolutely sure that these are the correct parts, or at least the right length, and they don't go too far. And I'll start this mower up and we'll just check it runs okay. Right, so I'll just reconnect this plug back up as I took it off. We'll see if it starts. I've had this started before. I think it kicks back a little bit, this, because it wants the sheave pin doing on the bottom of it. Just see what yeah, that's exactly it. So Spud, I hope that helps. If it does help, then obviously let me know, and if it doesn't, let me know as well, and we'll try and get you sorted out, because you're like so many people who are looking just to get these little mowers either running for themselves or actually to start repairing for profit as well. They're just a few little tips that I've come across. I've done probably hundreds of these now. Just little things like checking the springs and just not messing about with them. It's never that, it's always a diaphragm and gasket. If I remember, I'll put a link below this video to how to change the diaphragm and gasket as well, and that's the actual key to making a lot of money with these lawnmowers. Just these little things as well, so I hope that helps. The only other thing I would suggest to do is just check the primer bulbs not split, and make sure if you've changed the diaphragm and gasket like you said, make sure there's a tiny little spring in there that should just sit on the top of the on the diaphragm. Make sure that that's there as well, and make sure you tighten all the screws up evenly as well. That could help as well. And if not, just spend 5 minutes like I've got and get yourself another carburettor, bolt it on a different tank if you've got one, and put it on the machine and see if it runs. That's what I often do. I often keep a spare carburettor and tank that I know works well. When I get a machine in and I just want to try it quickly, I just unbolt one and bolt another one on, and 9 times out of 10 that's the problem. The only other problems you really get with these is if they've hit something underneath and the timing's out, and even then it only wants the blade taking off and like the keyway renewing or something like that. So really good mowers. I love repairing these for profit, I really do. I still find a lot of these about. And make sure the governor flap and all the springs are moving evenly and everything's back together correctly with the gaskets all together, diaphragm and gasket together, and the actual the rubber washers on the back as well, all pushed on evenly and all tightened up evenly. Once you've done it, honestly, once you've done it 4 or 5 times, you can do it in 10 minutes. So I'll get it in this video and I'll try and put it on YouTube for you, Spud. I hope that's helped. For anyone to get started, take a look at the website, repairlawnmowersforprofit.com, and please do me a massive favour and just like and subscribe. Thanks very much, and I'll see you again shortly.